Hello, everybody. I made it just in time. I hope the volume's okay. Everybody check their volumes. Make sure your helmets are strapped, seatbelts on, everything good. No, it'll be an easy day today. Not like yesterday. Yesterday was, I don't know what today is going to be like, to be honest with you. I just kind of go with the flow. How about that? But when I start to get excited in certain things and this, that, and the other, well, then things happen. You know, kind of like those peach sheets that just popped up there. You know, you walk down the hall, see the bedroom, and walk to the left, and there's a dresser with a TV on top, and that's what they were looking at, holding their kneecaps. Isn't that something? Somebody has that description. Anyway, things like that do happen. They do happen. It was quite an amazing day yesterday, to be honest with you. It was quite an amazing day. And do you guys know some things, some actual breakthroughs of sorts did in fact happen? They did happen. When you don't resist the Spirit flows, no matter how weird it sounds, things begin to take place. Good things begin to take place. So I'm thankful for it. I'm also thankful for you guys. You're a great group of people. Real great group of people. You know, it gives me comfort that as we enter these days, that you guys have formed a bond that you can actually open up to each other and assist and help one another. There's nothing more important sometimes than having someone to share things with. That's a very important substance to have while we're here on this earth. Certainly those you can just say what's on your mind, and you know that person, you can entrust that information with the other. Always. But I will caution you to do this. Never cast your pearls before swine. That is to say, whatever's important to you, whatever makes your heart move, and so forth, be careful who you sow it with. Be careful who you share that information with. What's really precious to you and touches your heart, sometimes you can share it with the wrong person. They will scoff at what you just said, hurt your feelings, and then turn and use that same thing against you. So be careful of that. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Don't do that. Folks, we know we're in the book of Revelation, but before we get started, let's say a prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever. Amen. You guys, yesterday we talked about some issues, but prior to that we were still in the book of Revelation, gaining understanding in the book of Revelation about what has to take place before the beast gets here. As we were talking about, according to the book of Revelation. And according to the book of Revelation, we were explaining the sixth seal, right? The sealing of the 144,000. The great multitude which no man can number, that was found in heaven at that time. So they were in heaven. We also talked about the four angels who held back the four winds of the earth, that no wind should blow upon the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. I'm going to talk about that time for a second. I don't know if anybody has actually given that real thought. Here's the problem. People just simply don't believe in angels. So they will try to explain this in the confines of their own personal understanding. Wrong move. As the days continue to go forward, I keep telling you guys, and I'm telling you ladies and gentlemen, that you're going to see some unexplainable things happening. You're going to see some unexplainable things happening. You're going to see the unbelievable with your own eyes. In your lifetime, you will see it. Now, I don't want that to challenge you. I personally see that, even though it's going to be real and dangerous to some, I still see that as a distraction. You see, because I partially understand who I am. I'm telling you now, if a demon walked up to me right in my face in full manifestation, I would tell it to move out of the way. I have work to do. That's what I tell it. If it came and confronted me, I'd tell it to move out of the way. I have real work to do. I don't have time to look at you. I have real work to do. But see, most people would shudder in their knees. Their knees would start whacking back and forth. They'd faint. Oh, I can't believe that exists. I'm not like that. If anything comes up to me, I'm going to tell it to move out of my way. I have things to do. I'm telling you, forewarning you, you're going to see the unbelievable. You're going to see it, the unbelievable. I encourage you simply to go on about your business. Be about your Father's business. You have authority over them. Tell them to move out of the way and continue to do the work of the Lord. But it's important that you're doing the work of the Lord. You know what Jesus said? That if he comes back and sees you not working. Do you guys remember that scripture? About those he comes back and he sees them not working, not doing the will of the Father. They're going to be thrown where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. See, what all this time has been given for us to do a work for the Lord. If he comes back, that means, and we're not working, that simply means we didn't listen to him. We chose another direction. That's exactly what that means. Once you really love the Lord, you become concerned about his business. Out of love. Most importantly, out of love. And see, I can't, I'm not going to be one of those ones who just throw in the towel. I'm going to be doing his business because I'll be honest. 100 years is not enough in my mind to do what I need to do. It's not. Now, I can attempt to compress it by working overtime. That's what I'm doing now. I'm working overtime, and I'm enjoying every second of it. There is no getting tired. You know, I can lay down, and I'm not tired. I still think about and reflect upon the day, saying, what can I change tomorrow if it comes, so that I may be effective without offending anyone else, telling them information they need to know, which is absolute truth, for your glory, Father. And he gives it to me. It's as simple as that. We do things for his glory. If we can just remember that everything we communicate, everything we do, every endeavor that we participate in, do it for his glory, so it brings glory to him, we'll not make a mistake. We won't make a mistake. The mistake comes from this. We do things we think is right for the kingdom, but inwardly we know we're wrong. You know, the book of James talks about people like that. I'm not going to cover that tonight. I don't have time to go into that. The book of James 3:13 through 17 talks about that. And James 4:11 through 17 talks about that. It does. It does. Proverbs 11:1 says this. This is something that God hates. 11:1 and so on. This is something that God hates. God hates a person who sows discord among the brethren. I want you guys to remember that. God hates a person who sows discord among the brethren. This is an abomination to God. Everyone that is proud in his or her heart is an abomination to the Lord. Everyone who is proud in his or her own heart is an abomination to the Lord. We'd be wise to remember such things. We would be very wise to remember such things. Those abominations are found in Proverbs 11:1. Continuing 1, 2, 3, probably about 3 verses. And then in Proverbs 16:5, it says, everyone that is proud in his or her heart is an abomination to the Lord. We need to know those things. That means the Lord does not like you. You're an abomination to him. You want to know why? When you're proud in your own heart, you give no room for any glory for anybody else or anything else. That's why. Folks, give me a short second. I'll be right back with you. Okay, you see what happens? Now, why in the world? I'm going to tell you guys what happened. You guys want to know what happened? Yeah, it was the phone, but here's how Satan works. Now, this is just totally, I was getting in the flow of things too. And so there was an acquisition needed, very expensive acquisition. For the small little radar octagons of $750,000 a piece, they needed a signature. They needed a signature to put in a requisition for the money to get the rest of them. That's what happened. Isn't that crazy? That's nuts. And then we found out they already had them. So that's crazy. So folks, give me a second. I'm going to get them off the phone. Then we're going to get started. Okay, can we start now? Can we start now? All right, we can start now. Back to what I was saying. Sorry about that, folks. Of course, you know, I'm strange anyway, so it's okay. Anyway, we were covering the incidents that happened prior to the beast that gets here. Now, hear me out. We know there are a ton of different doctrines out there, right? People believe in different things. I say this. Before we get started, I want to say something. It doesn't matter what they believe. So long as they believe that Jesus is Lord, we'll all learn the truth eventually. Because we're all going to be standing side by side in the kingdom saying, well, we sure messed that one up, didn't we? So in other words, we have our doctrine. But if it's not revealed by God, it's going to be faulty. Okay? We can only interpret prophecy as it comes. It does not matter if someone believes everybody's going to be taken after all this stuff happens. Or if someone believes that we're going to go through a little tribulation, they may be spared. Listen, if you happen to die when all the green grass is burned up, the trees are burned up, that's your revelation completed. If you don't wake up tomorrow, your revelation is completed. Regardless, one day, our revelation is going to be completed. And so our focus is doing the will of Jesus Christ. You know, He commissioned us after we said, yes, we believe you. He commissioned us to go find our brothers and sisters. That's why when a person gets saved and they really understand that they are saved, they can't help it. They want other people to know, hey, you can be saved too. Don't be on the wrong side. It's something automatic. When you get saved, you just don't sit back down in a chair and say, I'm saved. I'm going straight to sleep. You don't do that. You want your brothers and sisters in Christ to make it. It's already built into you. But what we're doing is going over Revelation, scripture by scripture, as the scriptures tell us. Listen, I'm not a theologian. I'm not a philosopher. None of those things. In fact, philosophers can destroy the Word of God in your life. Stay away from them. Theologians, hence the word theology, hence the word theory. They think up things that could be true. That does not mean they're fact. So guess what? Theologians, I don't get along with them either. I will not contain the Word of God in the confines of my understanding of the world. I will not lean unto my own understanding. I will let God be God. That's it. God is God. He dictates what He wants to do. He does. But I can tell you two things. We don't understand the world that we live in. We do not. Those who do are terrified to say it. And we certainly don't understand the heavens and what's really out there. Some do, and they're terrified to say it. But one day we'll all find out. But we've got to get this thing straight. Not being the ones who sow discord among the brethren, because they are an abomination to God. And He hates those acts that they do. We're here to edify one another, lift one another up, not get caught up in doctrine and all these other things. Because we are all family. How many people do you know? Family now, you get them at one table, they make a decision. Can they really make a decision on one thing? Or does everybody have a different opinion? But that does not make them void of being family. We're still family. These things we got to get over. We got to get over this. We have to wake up and say, I'm an adolescent in the Word of God. I got to stop rebelling and getting caught up in all these things. Mysteries. I mean, you know what? People get caught up on the silliest things. Let me forewarn them of what's going to happen. You start going down highways and you have not perfected your salvation. Yes, I said perfected your salvation. You start going down highways of knowledge and have not perfected your foundation. You are subject to be taken by that street you're going down. It's like this. If you, before you started driving a car, when you were riding with everybody else, you said to yourself, I can do this. But when you finally started driving and you were out there on your own, what happened? You got a little nervous, didn't you? You said, oh, I'm really doing this. You got a little nervous. The turns were not as smooth as you thought. That's what happens when Satan diverts you from the will of God down another highway. The only difference is you have an accident. Every time on his highway, you'll have an accident. But when you stay with the Father, you're given the ammunition, the study, the time. You're given the grace. You're given latitude to develop into a true child of the Most High. And while you're doing that, it's important to be wise, slow to speak, quick to listen. Observe things. Observe people's speech. Evaluate people for the glory of God, which is to say, if you see someone fussing and fighting, if you use your discernment, you can begin to see the core root of their fussing and fighting. Everybody who yells and fights and is angry, they also have a wound. If you properly use your discernment, you'll be able to find that wound. Then you can do some good to that individual. You can do some good to it. Anyway, I'm ranting. So we have the sixth seal. We went over the sixth seal. All of you guys know that's pretty bad, right? But we're going to talk about these four angels that hold back the four winds of earth. Now, there are other engraved writings that have the same information. There are also some other underground things that I really can't discuss, but I'm telling you now, these four angels are identified in that. Your leaders call them senior angels, the ones that they absolutely fear. These are the ones that they absolutely fear. These four angels command forces. They command forces. They have power to utterly destroy the earth. These ones that are holding back the four winds have power to destroy the earth. Did you guys hear that? It's in the Bible too. Listen. In chapter 7, verse 2, and I saw another angel ascending out of the east, having the seal of God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Do you guys understand that these four angels have power to hurt the earth? It says in Revelation. In the other places, they have power to destroy the earth. And we'll go into that later. In other words, these are powerful angels, and other angels answer to them. You guys got that? Now let's define angel. The Lord keeps bringing me back to this, and I don't want to do it. I do not want to get into this conversation, but we have to define an angel. I'll start by saying the Lord, one of his commandments is to have no other God before him. Do you know why angels won't show themselves? Well, they actually don't show themselves for two reasons. Anybody know the first? Anybody know the first? The first is so we don't worship them. Remember, John in Revelation went to the kingdom and he almost worshiped me. He said, no. I'm a servant just as you. Right? So guess what? If we were to see them all the time, men have a habit of worshiping things that defy everything they understand. That's what they do. Do you know what Satan is doing? Satan's doing the same thing. There's a time when he can manifest the angels that fell with him they can manifest, and men will think they're utterly fascinating. Do you know the ideas of men are inspired by either God or Satan? Do you guys understand that? Everything you do is inspired by one of two sides. Let's take the stealth bomber, for instance. When the stealth bomber was being designed, in dreams, the answers to stealth technology were given to the engineers. That's a fact. Let's take the space race, for instance. In dreams and in visions, the formulas, the ideas, all came from dreams. Dreams, dreams, dreams. Let's take the Wright brothers, whose father was a bishop and said if that men would never fly. If it was meant for men to fly, they would have wings. And of course, they proved their father wrong also. But you know what inspired them? One of them, Orville, I believe it was, had a dream of many planes in the air. Dreams. In fact, most of the organized technology that we share is inspired by dreams. There's a whole set of things that you don't know about. There's a lot of ancient artifacts left on Earth, but get this out of your mind. Don't think for one moment that the ancient world was not more advanced than this world. Don't do it to yourselves. You know, it says in the beginning. If we turn way back to Genesis, I can show you something real quick. Because I'm going to tell you a key to what was really in this earth. You guys ready? It's pretty simple. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. I'll stop right there. It says the earth. Now, listen, if the earth didn't exist, he said it was without form, structure, and void, empty, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Chaos. That word darkness that was used here in the Hebrew meant chaos. It was in chaos. Chaos. It was of another form. It had no order. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good. God divided the light from the darkness. And he called the light day, and the darkness he called night. The evening and the morning were the first day. That was an organization. But the earth was void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. A lot of scientists will tell you that this planet started as a water planet. In fact, only 10% of this planet has land on it. 10 or 15%. Depends. It goes up and down. This was a water world. But it had critters all over the place. You see, before Adam and Eve were created, the serpent was already right here, waiting to destroy God's first creation. A lot of people need to think in that context. Satan has been around for a long time. The Elohims, if you translate the Bible right, the Elohims were commanded to structure things on earth. The Elohims were instructed to create mankind. Angels carry out the orders of God himself. That's why the Bible says when God does come back, everything will melt at his presence. The mountains will melt. Everything will melt. Through great, great heat. When he comes, there can be no sin in his presence. None. He had to send his own son so he could actually look at us. So now we know Satan was cast out of heaven. We know Satan knows the plans of the only thing about Satan is he cannot worship God anymore. He can't worship God. He can't do it. But he knows exactly what's going on. All the way until the end, he knows exactly. Even his doom, he knows it. He knows it. Some of the fallen angels did not know it. They only knew a portion of it. 1/3 of the angels that will be cast down with him, they don't know the whole story. But Satan was a covering cherub. Satan was the most powerful creation God had. The most powerful and the most beautiful. And he thought himself beautiful, and of course that pride messed him up because he was so powerful and beautiful. He said, I'll just take my throne and put it above God's. You have to understand who Satan is. That is why you see him at the throne accusing the brethren, right? And that's why the demons are here on earth doing their little thing, being bound and so forth. But Satan is powerful, and he's very knowledgeable. Now, half of this technology has been given to man. Prior to Noah, they've already dug up so many things. They've dug up things you wouldn't believe. There are spherical chambers all throughout the earth. Looks like a hall that you can walk down. And guess what? Anybody that attempts to walk through that hall can be incinerated because there's some sort of a force around it. And only a certain type of individual with a certain type of DNA can pass through that energy field. That's a fact. They're all over the place. But I'm not getting into that because that's wild. Anyway, Satan inspires his technology because he cannot touch stuff himself. He has humans to do it. And he causes humans to make war with humans to carry out Satan's agenda. So all this time, what men have been doing is constructing a kingdom for Satan so that he can manifest. I'm talking about he's been structuring the incantations, the rituals and rites. These are forgotten things. The military knows about the rituals and rites, and they absolutely know they work. That's why when you see a UFO, it has strange writing on it. Those are incantations. It cannot fly in the airspace without the incantations. It won't be able to enter this dimension without the proper incantations. They're restoring all of this, just to let you know. That's why in Revelation there's critters all over the place. The veil is lifted. That side is preparing also. I'm just saying this for those who think Revelation, it's a book and it's saying stuff, and then tomorrow I got to go play golf. This is how they think. They're not taking it seriously. And if you don't take Revelation seriously, you certainly have not taken your salvation seriously. If we take our salvation seriously and count the cost of not being saved, that puts limitations on your sin. You'll say, nope, I'm not going to sin because I'm not going to risk being over there. I've come all this way and I'm not doing the dumb stuff anymore to put myself in jeopardy. But a person who is not serious, who is holding their helmet, not wearing their helmet of salvation, they're going to be part of the 5 foolish virgins. They're going to wake up to a world of hurt, not ready, because they never ever lived with a high expectation of both the return of Jesus Christ, nor did they help pave the way and gather their brothers and sisters while they were walking. They didn't do it. They were playing. And so they're going to be sandwich meat for what will walk upon the earth. I'm just telling you the truth. By the way, a lot of military people die discovering these things. Lots of them. It's a serious matter. The reason why I'm on this subject is because I know it's only a matter of time before things fall to earth which are not disputable, because they'll have certain life forms in them. I'm just telling you a fact. And when people see this with their own eyeballs, it's going to mess up everything they thought they knew. And I'm trying to avoid that by telling you, don't put limitations on God's creation. Don't attempt to interpret God based upon your little world. Be true with your salvation. Don't toy with your salvation. Be real in it. You know, it's an easy way to love your enemy as yourself. You know what that is? Is to understand that we're all children. Now, who can get mad at a little tiny infant if you're holding it and tickling its belly and it punches you in the eye? Has anybody ever gone through that? And then your eye starts watering? You don't get mad at the baby. It's just a baby. But guess what? We're all babies. All of us are babies. Every single last one of us are babies. But what you don't know is this. When you exercise that love towards your enemies, you neutralize the power of the enemy working through their life. They can't punch you in the eye. Love is what? A power that stirs emotions. Love is not an emotion. And when you love your enemy, you release that power in them, and it instantly starts to grow within a person. If you plant a seed of love within someone, it will overcome everything in their life. See, the opposite is true for someone who covers that love in their hearts. Evil grows. This is why people do bad things. And if you talk to these people who do bad things, it all goes back to one thing. Well, my mother died when I was young. I was abandoned. My father did this and that. They had a loss of love. They never had enough love, enough positive charge in their life to make it. They were starved of love. But since they're breathing air, it's still not too late. The message of love still exists, will exist until the end of time, because God is love. And if you believe in Jesus Christ, you have that love within you. But we can no longer turn our backs on people, scoff at people, become an abomination to God by being a talebearer, trying to tear down the body of Christ. I'll give you a warning. If you become or have the characteristics where you like to talk about ministries and say people are false this and false that, right? Or you put yourself in danger. Those same people that are saying these things, calamity comes to them swiftly. Why? Because the Bible said so. Immediately calamity comes. So be careful. This goes to even the people who may scoff at me. The Bible says pray for them. Don't jump on my side against the person, because then you're in the wrong. Don't do that. Keep loving your life. Pray for those who do such things. And take joy in the fact that they persecuted people before you who did believe in Jesus Christ. Now, in Revelation, these 4 mighty men, they were named as the same ones that expelled the Nephilim, by the way. And your history teaches you that what the giants really were, right? They said, well, what the giants were people in positions all over the earth. Wrong. There are 2 archaeological digs that went through every government in the world. They're about to show the world a ribcage of a human being that spans a mountain range. They're also going to show you the echosonograms taken from the sea floor. Human skeletons up to 160 feet tall. Now, did somebody go under the water and build those things? Where'd they come from? Anybody know where they come from? Automatically, people will say, oh, that doesn't exist, but they have recorded Brontosaurus 122 feet tall. That's interesting. You mean to tell me animals could grow that big back in that day? Yes, they could. So why is it so impossible for a human being, or those things, to have been that tall? Strange, isn't it? Also, why in the world would they detect the same DNA that's in some of those elongated skulls they also found in certain types of dinosaurs? Interesting, isn't it? Oh, and this too. There was a catalog of species that were on the earth drawn in rock caves they recently discovered. But the vegetation inside the rock cave dates back to about 2.2 million years. Isn't that something? You mean to tell me that the animals that live today look the same back then, but that the dinosaurs came from something else? By the way, all the dinosaurs were wiped out, weren't they? Weren't they wiped out? But see, if we read Genesis 6, they not only did they sleep with human women producing Nephilim and giants, but they corrupted the birds and the mammals and everything else. Did you guys ever read that? They corrupted all flesh on earth. And so, yes, God had to send a flood to destroy everything. That's why you have fossils of dinosaurs, by the way. What causes a fossil is lots of pressure. Of course, the carbon dating's wrong. So forget about the Mesozoic period and all these little periods that science have thought up. They're theories anyway. They're not real. Carbon dating has a lot of missing variables. It's not accurate. See, if the sun changes, carbon dating also changes. It can balloon the figures. I'm trying to dispel some thought processes for you. This is some of the garbage that's in the foundations that we have, built upon lie, upon lie, upon lie. See, the problem is, once a large majority of people are taught the same lie, they fight to keep the lie. They do. They fight to keep it. This is called education. It's called science. Have you ever noticed today that nothing is real until science says it's real? Nothing happened until CNN, Fox, or somebody else confirms it. And even in the depths of your heart, if you see confirmation through CNN or Fox, you feel better of the authentication of the story. Let's just be honest. But if you go anywhere else, it is suspect. As soon as you see it on, well, not Fox, but CNN or something like that, you feel confident, don't you? That's called programming. Very decisive if you ask me. See, predictive programming, I'm not going to get into that. The 4 angels that hold back the 4 winds. Can you imagine what was seen there? Imagine 4 angels. You understand who they are. They're holding back the 4 winds. The 4 winds. You don't see any cloud movement or anything else. You don't see anything. They hold back the 4 winds. And in the other inscribed areas around the world, it says this: the 4 mighty men which expelled the Nephilim held back both fire and winds, that nothing stir upon the earth, and the tribes of the earth will take flight. That's what it says. The tribes of the earth will take flight during that time. But it said nothing will stir upon the earth. Nothing. No air, no fires, no wind. And you know what? Go figure. I did have a dream one time. I had quite a few dreams, but this one was when I was young. When I was younger, I had quite a few dreams concerning today, this era. But when I was young, I had a dream that everybody and every bird and everything stopped in motion. Frozen. Can you imagine walking outside your door and nothing is moving? The birds are stuck in one position in the air. Can you imagine that? Time for them stopped. But guess what was happening while time stopped? People were walking together to one place, and I was happy. I didn't know why I was happy, but I was happy. I was walking with everybody that was walking at that time. Some people were frozen in time. Some people were walking. It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. Anyway, that was a dream. And here we have something that says the 4 angels will hold back the 4 winds of earth, that the wind should not blow upon the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If the wind stops, it makes you wonder what else is stopping. Why just stop the winds to seal the servants of God in the foreheads of the 144,000? But you know what? If you look up that word wind, you'll begin to see. I'm not going to say it here. I want you to do some homework, because it has a lot to do with life stops. The breath of life stops. Has a lot to do with time. Now, this was in the Greek. And I'm telling you now, it has to do with time. The wind does. They often use that word that equates to wind in the Greek to refer to time. Now, time is given for us. Time is not for God. He exists both in the past, right now, and in the future. He's already in your tomorrow. That's why he knows what you're going to do. He's already in your tomorrow and the day after that. He's been in every single second that you'll ever have in life. He's been there already. He already knows. If you love him, you're already secure. See, to him, watching our lives is like watching a videotape that's been rewound, and you're just watching the events that lead up to the victory. That brings him glory. Time does not exist for him. He finished the whole thing already. Your destiny has already been completed. He's seen you at your end already. He has. So what we have to do is get a little serious, right? Sometimes we have to unlearn what we've learned. Because my concern is when people begin to see the unbelievable in front of their face, they don't need to be one of those ones whose hearts fail them for fear because they simply could not comprehend it. You see, if I talk about it and it's in your head, when you actually see it, you'll say, oh, okay, that's not so bad. But if you never, ever heard of it, it can utterly give you a heart attack because it changes the premise of everything in your life. See, the world does not believe in such things. They don't. They believe that the world is going to keep on revolving, that nothing will ever happen to it, that science is a ruler of our knowledge, that politics works. They do believe this, that ultimately everything's going to work out just right. We're going to be hunky-dory with everybody. This is what they believe. They do not believe in the Word of God that says everything will go downhill. Piece after piece, things are going to go downhill. Souls are going to be consumed. They ignore the signs. You know, Pastor Paul is so wonderful, bless his heart, for doing the news every single day, giving us those stories that you really can't get anywhere else. And you know what? It's the small ones that capture my attention. It's not the big ones, the small ones. Like the sinkhole that formed on that football field, like the hail that fell at that game. You know what that tells me? That the Lord is not going, the Lord is not pleased with anything that man celebrates outside of him. Because they celebrate football, don't they? They celebrate the whatever the cup place that the hail fell. They celebrate their engineering in cars. The Lord's not pleased with that. And one by one, all these catastrophes are happening in places of which they celebrate. Not the places where they originate, the places where they celebrate. That's a very direct message to me. And the Lord gives these subtle signs, and He's saying, pay attention, my people, because it takes a believer to consider everything. The Lord said, test all things. And let me tell you something. If you find out about it, it was purpose that you find out about it. Don't ever think something happens by chance. Don't do that. That's not true. That's just not true. Everything is purposeful and meaningful. Everything is. Okay, so back to these four. Now, mind you, these guys held back the four winds. And the 144,000 were sealed with the seal of God in their foreheads. And then, of course, I got to talk about this. In verse 9, a great multitude which no man can number of all nations, kindreds, tongues, and people stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and palms in their hands. They were crying with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb. This is when they all began to worship. And one of the elders said to John, what are these which are arrayed in white robes? And where they came, this was a question. Like he was happy about telling John, hey, John, what are these? Pointing to him. Who are these? Who are these people, John? Who are these? And John says, well, you know, I don't know, you know. These are they which came out of great tribulation and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall sunlight on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of waters. And God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes. You know what got me from that? Now, hear me out. That was a pretty long explanation, right? That was like he was excited. That was meaningful. He spent a lot of time on that. He spent a lot of time on those. That must have been very significant. Very significant. One of the elders actually asked John, who are these arrayed in white? That's like you saying at Christmas time to your kid or to your cousin or your brother or whoever, saying, where do you think your present is? Under the tree. That's because you're excited for them to understand what it is. That's what's happening there. The elders were excited. Mind you, this happens before the first angel sounds. Now, for those who would like to mix it up and the seals get mixed up and they say that, the trumpets go parallel with the seals, listen. Chapter 8, it says, when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in the heaven for a space of a half an hour. And I saw 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. So on the 7th seal, the trumpets have not blown. The 7th seal, the trumpets were given to the angels to prepare to sound. That indicates an order. Now, I've heard people say that the trumpets happen in the 6th seal. I've heard them say this. But that's not what the Bible says. Because in the 7th seal, the trumpets were given to the angels. The prayers of the saints went up before God. You see, people try to mix this stuff up. You can't do that. It's in order. So prior to the first angel sounding, when all the green grass burns up and all the trees burn up, a great many people won't be on earth anymore. The 144,000 are going to be sealed. And the armies of the earth will be utterly destroyed. You got that? That's the 6th seal. Where did we discover that? Isaiah 34. You know what's simple? It's very simple. When you read the Bible in its own contextual presentation, not add to it, not take away from it. It's very simple to understand. But you know what? The Lord did say something. He uses the simple things of this world to confound the wise. Doesn't he? That means there are simple things in the Bible that a wise person cannot capture. You know why? Because they'll always say, well, that doesn't quite match my knowledge. That's why. They'll say it has to be more. That's why. That's why they can't capture this. The hailfire mingled with blood, they'll probably spend 20 years on that one scripture. Saying, now the hail represents the coldness of the people. I'm just telling you how they think. And philosophers. The coldness of the hail represents the hearts that are cold in the people. And the fire is the wrath of God, and the blood is the blood of Jesus Christ. This is how they interpret things, because they're trying to find some type of definition that explains it in the realm of their understanding. But the Bible said, lean not unto your own understanding. It said, don't do it. Revelation comes from God. That's why when he said, Peter, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ. You are the Son of God. And he says, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. Upon this rock I will build my church. Upon what rock? The rock of See, the church is built upon revelation directly from God. When Jesus bursted out there and said, upon this rock I will build my church, I don't know what everybody else was thinking, but when I read that over and over again, it made perfect sense. Nobody knew who he was. He went to Peter. Peter said he was the Son of God. Jesus said, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Upon what rock? See, I'm that child. I'm telling you, I'm that child who has a present under the tree with no batteries. I'm going back to the Lord and say, hey, this is no good. I got no batteries. So when I'm reading something and an odd word pops up, I want to know, okay, on this rock I'll build my church. What rock? That's the first thing I said. What rock? And the Lord does that on purpose. He does. See, that would confound the wise person, wouldn't it? One that counts himself wise would miss it. But he said, upon that rock I will build my church. What rock? The revelation, flesh and blood revealing something is not the rock he's talking about. When God reveals things to you, that's the rock of which the church is built, is called faith. Isn't that something? is called faith and revelation. And guess what? That's why it says, hurt not the oil and the wine. Because they can't. The oil and the wine will never be disrupted. But revelation from God is what has built this church. So they can identify the truth of a thing, which holds the body together. You can find that in James, and you can also find that in 1 Peter, 2 Peter. You can also find that in Romans. You can find that in Romans. Anyway, what we have to do is not put God in the confines of our own understanding. Even me. Now, you know what? Everybody has their own ideas about things, right? But I'm telling you now, my ideas are stupid. They're stupid. Why? Because they're founded in the things that I learned of this world. So they don't make sense. God is God. I can't expect God to act like the traditional orders that I have. That's crazy. But these people were pulled out of great tribulation, and all the armies were destroyed. Prior to that, in Isaiah 34. You see, before the 144,000 are sealed, and before that great many people, listen, keepers, these are they which came out of great tribulation. Where were they? Where were they? Anybody answer that? Where were they? In Revelation 7:14 says, these are they which came out of great tribulation. Where were they at? Where were they? What were they in? Great tribulation. Great tribulation. Now, this is the only spot in here that tells you about a group that came out of great tribulation. This is before the trumpets, by the way. They were in great tribulation. Now, if you understand that, you're going to have to be strong for those who thought they were going to escape this. Because they're going to have to hold on just for a little bit, and then poof, they're out of there. They don't know how they're going to be pulled. Because see, at the seventh trumpet, the mystery of the prophets will be revealed. Not at this time. I'm just telling you where they came out of. They came out of what? Great tribulation. Well, now, doesn't that make you nosy? You read in Revelation, and instantly you see about people who came out of great tribulation. And you say, I heard Jesus talk about tribulation in Matthew 24. I heard that. What is that all about? Then we go to Matthew 24, and he says, immediately after the tribulations of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon will not give her light, and the stars are going to fall. Oops, that's the sixth seal. So we know the sixth seal happens after great tribulation, but the people came out of great tribulation. It gives you an identification, a time, a point of reference of when a great many people are going to be leaving earth. It just handed that to you. Now, but the 144,000 are not going anywhere. That's why they're sealed with the seal of God on their foreheads. That's why they're special people, so that they can be given extra things to endure. Because even they were frightened when the earthquake hit. Isn't that something? If we just read the scriptures, we can have a total accountability of the population of earth, who left, who stayed, who endured, and whatever. We can have that information. But we have to do a little study. Now, back to the four angels. It's amazing how they held back the four winds. And then John identifies this great many people who came out of great tribulation. But, when the moon turns to blood and the sun is black as sackcloth, this is what people don't understand. Hear me out. How long do you think the sixth seal is? How long do you guys think that sixth seal is? See, the first seal is still ongoing. It never shut. Second seal is still ongoing. It never shut. Third seal is still ongoing. It never shut. Those under the altar, they're waiting for a specific number of people to be killed as they were, and then that's completed. That's not even shut. We get to the sixth seal. How long do you think it lasts? Let me tell you something. It takes 90 days for the people who are going into underground bunkers to get there. So that's 90 days. I'll tell you something else. After a great earthquake, it's going to take time to repair some things. When the stars fall onto earth, they might fall in a time durational period. When the heavens roll together like a scroll, that could take place fairly quickly. But the heavens are massive, massive. And then the kings of the earth and everybody else is going to hide themselves in the mountains. And then still in the sixth seal, the four angels hold back everything on earth. And then you got a lot of missing people. And people are sealed right before the trouble starts. The trouble begins with the 7 trumpets. But in the sixth seal, everything changes. In the sixth seal, everything. Every single thing changes in the sixth seal. The question is, where are you going to be? Where are you going to be? Because everybody wants to know, don't they? Well, am I going to be one of those ones that come out of great tribulation? You might if you die. I'm being honest with you. Listen to me. People are so scared to death. They're scared to death of death. How can that be? Now, I'm going to ask you a serious question tonight. Why in the world are you scared of death? Why are you scared of death? I want you to think about that while we're taking a break. Because I want to know why you are scared of death. Seriously, now be honest, because I want to see you guys type some things in the chat room. This needs to be discussed. This is an area nobody ever talks about. They don't. But you know what? Understanding what death is, understanding what drives you to save your own life, can unlock those chains that have been attached to you so that you can walk free of some things. So we're going to address that when I get back, because we're family here. This is so all of us can grow together. And I'm telling you now, I have a deep concern of the things that are coming upon the earth and how they will affect you. I can tell you that now. I know partially of what is coming upon the earth, but I need you to know how to handle it, how to still be you during that time. So let's all take a break, think about that death question, and I'll be right back. Had a small technical difficulty. It's okay. We made it. We made it, and we are back. Everybody can hear me okay? Hopefully. Hopefully you can hear me good. Okay. Death. Let me share with you something about death. First of all, none of us should have a fear of death. It's a construct. You know why? We've got to get out of the habit of fearing those things we don't know. It's called walking by faith. See, when you walk by faith, you're not concerned about the unknown. You're concerned about being an ambassador for Christ. But I want you to see something here. Before things get really bad on earth, there's a great many people that will be missing. But there are some who will convert during that time. There are some. Now, many people have a motive, as I said before, for serving the Lord. They do. Because they're scared of death. They're scared of the consequences of death. They want to live, right? I've heard people go to the hospital who are Christians, come out of the hospital and they say, "Thank God I'm alive," right? That's what they say, "Thank God I'm alive." Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And please hear me. There's nothing wrong with that. But the purpose of your life is not defined. If someone says, "Thank you, Lord, for waking me up this morning," why are you thankful He woke you up? So you can go throughout the day to commit more sin? So you can enjoy the substance of your life? Why? You need to ask yourself, why? If people are in the hospital and they're about to die, I've heard them say it. "Thank God I'm alive." 2 months later, they're back into the same messes they were in. That's what they do. They're back in the same messes they were in. if we're thankful to the Lord for another day, that we wake up and we're happy about it just so we can enjoy the substance of our life, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. If we get sick, like we get news we have cancer and we're so fearful, why? Because we're going to die. You're in trouble. See, the Lord came to take away that sting of death. He said there is no death for us. So why are you afraid of it? You know what that really is? This is what you gauge. Your flesh has a natural instinct to survive. If our flesh is not subdued, it has more instincts than that. And when it's time to stand, if you have not subdued your flesh is going to do something different than you thought. Let's take the mark, for instance, and have a real discussion. I'm going to just talk about the mark of the beast for a minute. I want you to imagine a calamity on earth. Everything has changed. You're hungry. You're just hungry, right? You need something to drink, and you look at your kids, and they're saying, "Mommy, we're hungry," and they're crying. And someone comes along and says, "If you take this mark, you can have food, you can have shelter, life can go back to normal." That's what they're going to say. Your life can go back to normal. Are you going to take that mark? Or watch your kids suffer in agony because they can't eat? Now, I want you to think about that. Because a lot of people don't think about that. What would you do? See, if you're one of those people that says, "I will do anything for my family to keep them in a good state," then right now at the present time, a lot of people are going to take the mark. They're going to take the mark of the beast. Just like you guys look for jobs and income. I'm telling you, it's the same thing. And then they'll convince themselves of this. Well, the mark is just a way of life. It's not really going to send us to hell. They're going to comfort themselves in that knowledge. I'm telling you, before it happens, what's going to happen to a great many people. Now, we're discussing things that happened before the mark of the beast. And the Lord said, "Pray that you are worthy to escape all these things." He said that for a reason. Because everybody who's not written in the Lamb's book of life at that time, past the trumpets, is going to take the mark of the beast. That's written in the Bible. It's written in the Bible. Everyone who does not take the mark, you're going to die. You're going to die. It's the only two ways. It's the only two ways you're going to die. But prior to that, a great many people came out of Great Tribulation. Now, it does not tell you how they came out of Great Tribulation. And the only people that can be touched are the 144,000. But they are, the 144,000 under seal from the 12 tribes of Israel, are both virgins, very special people. Let's call them special people. Very special people, very pure, spiritually pure people. But they have to go through some things to see it. They have to go through some things. But you, the Gentiles, who were invited to the wedding, who received the invitation, because his own people did not receive the invitation, they have to be shown some things. I'm going to put this into the realm of reality for you. Those who believe in Jesus Christ now, who are not toying with their salvation, who are not toying with it, who are not planting seeds of discord in the body, who are not switching to other doctrine and adding to the books of the Bible through their own doctrine, who are not simply trying to sell books to make money to provide stuff for their lives. Those people who have spoke the pure word, not lying about the truth, not puffing themselves up against another. Those who have overcome this anger in their lives, this vengeful attitude, and everything else. Those who have overcome that. Those who have kept to the doctrine as it was stated to one of the 7 churches. The Lord will keep them from that hour of temptation. Those who have not are going to be tried in the fire. It's as easy as this. You're trying the fire now throughout your life. or you're going to be tried in the fire later. Now, the latter fire is a hot one. It's a hot one. But when you're speaking about death to save your own skin, you're going to lose your own skin. You know, it was written in the Bible very clear. Those who seek to save their lives will lose it. And those who lose their lives for His sake, Jesus Christ, they'll find it. Because let me tell you something. If you're focused on the mission and your heart is toward everybody else, something changes within you. Something changes within you. If you don't believe me, try it now. Release your love to other people and watch what happens in your life in less than a week's time. In less than a week's time. In most cases, it can become instantaneous. You begin to dwell in a different atmosphere that you never thought existed. See, if you're focused inwardly on yourself, all you can see is your own atmosphere. All you can see are the things of yourself. But if you focus on everybody else but yourself, something changes. Something is released in your life. You don't talk the same. You're not concerned about the same things. You're not. You know what you're concerned about? Your brother, just like he was you. You know, it's plenty of times. If I see someone walking and they're limping, that catches my eye and my concern. If I get hungry, instantly I think about everybody else who's getting hungry. If I so much as stub my toe, I'm thinking about everybody else's pain. I begin to pray. See, I do love my neighbor as myself. I do. I'll go to people's homes, and if they're lacking, I make sure that the problem is solved. I'll take my time out to make sure that problem is solved. You know why? Because their success is my success, and their failure is my failure. See, when you love your enemy as yourself and your neighbor as yourself, you're involved with them. You're not nosy. You're not nosy. You're involved, and the Lord can use you for a great many people. A lot of people want to be used of the Lord, but they can't be because they're thinking inwardly. And if you reflect on your own conversations, it always ends with yourself. Overcome that. You know what? You're destined and you're designed to be an overcomer. Stop listening to Satan. Stop giving ear to him. Stop leaning to other doctrines that tell you about this scientific way to achieve some type of higher consciousness. And let the Lord's will be done in your life, so you can walk among men as an ambassador of Jesus Christ. Certainly do not toy. Listen, if you are saying you're saved, but you are performing things by order of another doctrine, you're deceiving yourselves. Most doctrines concern witchcraft. And a lot of people don't understand what witchcraft is. They don't understand it. Those are incantations. You know what? Certain TV shows are the beginning of an incantation. Once you watch it, you're indoctrinated, and then you begin to copy what you saw in that TV show, which is the finalization of corruption in your life. That's witchcraft. I'm telling you that they do it. When I first saw the manuals on that, I was stunned. And you know what? That's when I was watching TV. I'd watch shows. I'd check out the news and watch certain movies that came out. When I read that manual, that was the end of TV for me. And you go through withdrawals. Now, how in the world can you go through withdrawals if nothing was happening in the first place? But if you don't watch your television, I'm telling you right now, you'll go through withdrawals. I'm just telling you what I know. You will go through withdrawals. Just like Facebook. Just like social media. Let me explain something to you. There's nothing wrong with social media if you're not addicted to it, if you've not given in to its lure. Because social networking, social media allows you to share your thoughts with another. Thoughts are personal and are meant to be thoughts, never to go anywhere else because they're thoughts. But what's happening is everybody knows everybody's thoughts, and thoughts are foul. Some thoughts are unbelievable. But because they're only thoughts and they're written down, people say, well, there's no harm to that. But what they're doing is forming a new type doctrine in the world, absent God, period. As this continues. And God does not enter the hearts of man, and they forget the ways that they were once taught. Then you'll see this world escalate in dangers it has never faced before. But even social media is also predictive programming. It's teaching you how to become social in a world that you didn't know before. Because you have to learn certain ways to talk and who likes what, how to be this. And everybody you expose yourself to, you adopt some of their ways. You absolutely do. Be careful and be mindful of those things. You're an ambassador to the kingdom of God. You are not an agent of the world. You're in this, the Bible says you're in this world, but not of this world. You're to have no characteristics of this world. Yet you are to endure the things of the world to bring glory to God. But you don't walk as mere men. Paul said, because you still walk as mere men, I cannot share the meat of the word with you. But I have to give you milk. And if I keep giving you this milk, you're not going to make it to the kingdom of heaven. People drink milk because they refuse to accept the food. Babies have to be weaned from a bottle, don't they? And at first they don't like food too much. Once they get that first taste of the food, they want more meat, more meat, more meat. Then they grow into an adult. But if you stay stuck on the milk, you don't get enough nourishment to grow. Milk is easy to take. It's very easy. When you eat meat, the body has to do a whole lot more to process it. So we have a great many people taken out of tribulation. And if we turn to Matthew 24, that is defined for us. Let's turn to Matthew 24 and check it out. We're going to see what Jesus said about that. Let's just turn there. Let's just go there. I believe in getting to the heart of the matter. That's what I believe. Matthew 24, here it is. Yep, we're going to read it backwards. You know, you guys always have a habit of doing that. Matthew 24:29 says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. You guys see that? Then it says, and then he's given another order. This is in order. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So after the inside the sixth seal, they're going to see a sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. Do you know that happened when the tribes of the earth hid themselves in the rocks, the dens, and the tree, or not trees, but they hid themselves under the ground, saying, hide us from the wrath of the Lamb. They saw the sign of his coming. Isn't that wonderful? They were scared to death. That's what they get. Because they refused to accept salvation. Within them was their own wisdom become gods themselves, and it failed them. They saw the sign of the Son of Man coming in the sixth seal. That's why the tribes of the earth mourn, and that's why they hid themselves. I love Jesus. He just told us what we needed to know. Anyway, before that, what's it say in verse 26? He was talking about false Christ coming, right? He said, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. That means everybody's going to know that the Son of Man is coming. You know what? Just like when you see water, you know it's water, don't you? You know it's water. Doesn't matter what color the water is. You know it's water. When you see something slivering in the ocean, you know it's a fish, don't you? You know it's a fish. When you see something flapping in the air, you know it's a bird. Sometimes you don't have to teach kids what a bird is, and they'll just end up saying bird. They know what things are. Instinctively, they know what things are. Instinctively, everybody's going to know. Jesus coming instinctively. You know, part of that brain we can't use, that's probably where it's held. And the Lord will turn it on quickly. And everybody's going to know. Even the bad people, they're going to know. That's why they hid themselves in the underground bases and in places of protection and sealed the vault doors. Worried to death in the underground bases. Can you imagine that? They see the unbelievable coming, which scares them to death. They go in their underground bases having full knowledge of who it is. At that point, they're going to realize, I have messed up big time. It's too late. I've chosen my side. I've chosen my side. See, the Lord gives us a chance to be redeemed while we cannot see Him. But when He said there will be time no more salvation. That's it. They're stuck. But we know that they're going to know this thing because He, in Matthew 24:27, for as lightning cometh out of the east and shineth unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. That means everybody's going to see it. Then it says, for wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. You know, it's a curious word, carcass. Jesus gave us an example. Eagles, when He said eagles, I want you to think of birds being drawn to a carcass in the wild. They find it. Wherever they are, they find it. For some reason, vultures find it for some reason, right? Eagles have vision beyond vision. They have excellent vision. Excellent vision. The carcass, wherever the carcass is a body that's been beaten up. When Jesus does come, the gathering automatically takes place. Now, what did He say will happen when He comes, when we see Him? That Paul said we'll be caught up with Him in the air, didn't he? Now, this is really going to just mess some people up here. He said we'll be caught up with Him in the air. Right? Change in a twinkling of an eye. Right? Caught up with Him in the clouds. Didn't He say that? Somebody find that scripture. Somebody find that scripture where it says that, please. We have to examine that. Where Paul was saying we'll be caught up with Him in the clouds. Can we examine that just for a minute? Let's go over there and check that out. Let's go check that out. 2 Corinthians 15:33, you think? That's where I'm at, looking. You have to forgive me for these pages. They turn pretty... Okay, here we go. I got some... Let's get over there. Oh, my goodness. These little pages are sticking together and everything else. No, Steve, do you have that backwards, my friend? They said Thessalonians 4:17. There we go. Thank you, folks. I think there's also something in Corinthians, but we'll look at that. Let's look at Thessalonians. Now, you know, guys, when we examine something, we just don't read the scripture because we have to see the contextual place of the scripture. To read the scripture, to me, this is just me, is not so good just to read the scripture. Right? You have to know the context of it. All right, I'm in Thessalonians. What'd you guys say? Thessalonians what? Oh, boy. This is ridiculous. 4:17? 3. Are you guys okay? You're not going to believe this. Not here. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry. That's my fault. That is my fault. It's right here in front of my face. You ready? Let's read this. I'm going to start with chapter 4, verse 11. And that you study to be quiet and do your own business, and to the work with your own hands, as we commanded you, that ye may walk honestly toward them that are without, and that ye may have lack of nothing. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep. He's talking about those that are dead. That ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for ye yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. You are all children of the light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor darkness, therefore let us not sleep. Don't sleep. Let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and of love, and for a helmet of hope of salvation. For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even also as ye do. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you, and are over you in you in the Lord, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for their works' sake. For their works' sake. And be at peace among yourselves. I'll stop right there. Now, to give you an idea, these people were obviously upset about those who were dead in the earth. Paul repeated something that was found in the book of Daniel, which they read a lot. Now, understand this. They knew the book of Daniel. They read it quite a bit. They also knew what Jesus told them. They knew the Torah. They did. They knew the Torah. And we know that in the judgment, the dead in Christ rise first. Now, we're going to solve another mystery. This is the biggest mystery on the planet. In Revelation, we see a great number that no man can number that was found, didn't we? They were in heaven, right? But at the end of Revelation, the dead rise out of their graves. The dead are taken out of their graves, aren't they? We also found in Revelation there's a second death and a first resurrection, didn't we? And this can confuse you without putting it into context. It can confuse you. Now we're going to talk about the first one. In the book of Daniel at the end, in chapter 12, at the most tumultuous time of the world, Michael the archangel will stand up, the prince that stands for his people. Now, keep in mind that Daniel was given a dream concerning Israel, period. He was given a dream concerning Israel, period. Michael stood up, the dead in Christ rised, some to everlasting contempt, some to everlasting life. Those which were alive shined with the brightness of the stars, the heavens. They were changed. They were changed. They were absolutely changed. But then we read in Revelation, and Jesus was saying, everybody would know is coming. Everybody would know when he comes. And that the men would go hide in the caves because they saw that sign. I'm giving you a time reference. This is timing, what we're looking at today. Timing. And the four angels, and the 6 seals specifically. And before he comes, false prophets will arise. And if it were possible, these folks would deceive the very elect through these false prophets. Through the false prophets. But before that, Jesus said something disturbing. Hear me out. Before the moon turns to blood, before they see the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds, before the eagles gather with the carcass, he said something disturbing in Matthew 24:21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Now, when you're reading this in context, Jesus gave them questions to some answers. He gave them answers to a few questions they had. They wanted Jesus to tell them when these end times events will come, what will be the sign of his coming, and a sign of the end of the world. Those are the three questions. Now, when you're reading Matthew 24, he answered all three questions. God is a God of order. He did not mix them up. That's why at the end of Matthew 24, he said something curious, didn't he? Oh, back in there, not Matthew 24. Well, Matthew 24. He said in 36, but of the day and the hour knoweth no man, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. He also said before that, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. They wanted to know specifically the sign of his coming. That's in chapter 4, verse 3. When will these things be? He answered that. What shall be the sign of thy coming? He answered that. Not only did he answer, but he showed them the conditions of which the signs will be given. And then the final one, what will be a sign of the end of the world? Jesus starts out saying the exact things in Revelation. Many will come in his name. We will hear wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation. He said, all these things are the beginning of sorrows. Because they asked, when will these things be? He's answering the question. Then he said, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and will kill you, and you'll be hated of all nations for my sake. This is also a sign. Are you guys catching this? Because this goes, to understand portions of Revelation, you have to understand what the Son of God said. You have to understand what Jesus, the Son of God, said. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many will wax cold. But he that it shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. Did you guys get that? So through verse 4 through verse 14 is an answer to a question. Then Jesus goes further. He's addressing them. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight not be in winter, neither on the Sabbath. For then shall be great tribulation, as such was not since the beginning of the world, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is a Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you beforehand. Did you guys get that? Behold, I've told you beforehand. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. He is in his secret chambers, believe it not. For as lightning cometh out of the east and shineth unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. And immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. They shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When the branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Period. That's a period there. What generation won't pass till all these things be fulfilled? The generation that sees these things forming. That means you. That means you. Okay, so that was the answer to the and what was that question? They said specifically, and what shall be the sign of thy coming? He just told them. He told them all the events that occur around the sign of his coming. He just told you that. Then they had another question, didn't they? They said, and of the end of the world. So let's continue to read. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of the day or hour, no man. He said, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. Okay, I stopped right there, right? Now, hear me out, guys. I stopped right there and I said, of what day or hour? Because Jesus just broke out and said, listen to what he said. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day or hour knoweth no man. No, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. What day? But of that day or hour. Now, he just said something. They asked, what will be the sign of the end of the world, didn't they? In verse 3, chapter 24, verse 3. They said, and of the end of the world. Let me rephrase the three questions again. Tell us, when shall these things be? First question. What shall be the sign of thy coming? Second question. And of the end of the world. Right? Now, he just answered two of them. Verses 4 through 14. Verses 4 through 14 showed them all the signs that shall be, things that shall be. 15, through what we just read, were the signs of his coming. There were the signs of his coming. Now, he just said in 35 and 36, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day or hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. That was one complete system there. What day? The end of the world. Nobody knows the end of the world, right? And nobody knows what the Father has held to himself to give out. Nobody knows the day nor the hour, not the angels in heaven either. But he did say heaven and earth will pass away, but his words will not pass away. His words will not. Now, here's a mystery. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying, given into marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. There's two things in here that I caught that nobody's ever going to know. They're not going to know the end of the world. And they're certainly not going to know when Jesus comes back. Then he defined why they can't know when he comes back. Because if Satan knows the exact time when Jesus is coming back, he's going to try to ensure he puts double effort in you to mess you up, to make you not worthy to be taken up to him. This is why Jesus was talking about the thief coming. And the strong man of the house, not knowing when the thief is coming, wouldn't be prepared. So when God tells Jesus, go get them, go forth, he lets the bridegroom out of his chambers. That's it. But the contextual information we just got, in its context, conveys a lot of information to the sixth seal. Now we just noticed that one will be taking the other left. Right? People are going to be taken from this earth. Did it tell you how? No, it didn't. And here's the part that got me. He said they were working. They were doing stuff. Listen to me closely. He said, for as the days of Noah were before the flood, they were eating and drinking marriage and giving in to marriage until the day Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. How do we interpret that? That they're going to be doing stuff like today. Still on the news doing CNN. Still doing jobs and everything else. Until the floodwaters come and take them all away. Then he said at that time, two people are going to be grinding at the wheel. They're going to be in their jobs, employed. One will be taking the other left. Did you guys get that? Do you guys understand that? At the beginning of this conversation, when I was talking about the subtle signs that God gives, pay attention. That's why he said watch. These sinkholes that we're having in places where men celebrate things, the hail that falls, where they celebrate things, the idols that men have set up, stuff is happening to them. The world's not paying attention to that stuff. You pay attention. Does not the Lord use the foolish things of this world to confound the wise? Fish and animals dying have become foolish. Sinkholes have become foolish. Are you guys listening to me? It's not the booming voice. It's not the booming event that's going to take people before you're gone. It's going to be subtle, just like it is now. I keep telling you the Lord is holding things back for your sake. For your sake. But if you don't watch, if you're not paying attention, if you're not real about your salvation, you will be just like the world and discount everything you've seen. When the red rains do come, that's the end of that. There are things happening in this world that you couldn't possibly imagine, but when they become public, commonplace for you, when Pastor Paul starts talking about the unbelievable, then the time is at the door. Now you know why a great many people came out of great tribulation. This was my whole point in reading this. You have to understand that they came out of great tribulation. How these people are coming out of great tribulation. They're out. They're gone. They're no longer on earth, right? These people are gone. And we see that it's a tumultuous time. That's why it was called Great Tribulation, right? But then here's a kicker. Here's what nobody ever discusses. After that Great Tribulation, the trumpets begin to blow. After that, you see a great many people are in heaven. Where are they at? They're with the Lamb. They're with the Lamb. That's where they are. Who's left on earth at that time? The 144,000. But they're hidden in a special way. It's just 144,000. Now they came out of great tribulation, which means they were in great tribulation. And we know these things happened over a course of time, but we know one generation, here, please hear me, one generation that sees all these things come to pass. Nation rising against nation, wars and rumors of wars, false prophets rising, false prophets showing signs and wonders. We're going to see false prophets show signs and wonders. I'm telling you that now. But see, the world won't see it, which means you're going to have to dig for that. It'll surface. The Lord will let the body of Christ know through Pastor Paul, through me, through some of you, through whomever. This is why the body of Christ is so important. How are you going to know these things if you're outside the real body of Christ? He's going to reveal these things to his Father, to his body. And if you're outside of the body, you're not going to know it. And you're going to be one of those who are going to be overtaken by the flood. You'll be convinced it's not coming. You'll be one of the scoffers that says, as it's prophesied, things are going on as they have been since the beginning of the world. But see, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. No one had this technology for a very long time. No one was able to see everything that happens on the face of the earth. No one was able to access a computer, pull up Google Maps, and see everything and put context of what's happening. Nobody had Instagram, Facebook, where they can post videos of things that are happening, weird things that are happening, missiles getting shot down, sinkholes forming. They didn't have that. You know what you're doing? You're one of the people who are seeing all these things. Israel was just made a nation in 1947. Commanded to build Israel by the UN General Assembly. Israel just restored all their weaponry and everything else in the 60s. It just happened. Now the generation that sees that happen, that generation shall not pass, all things be fulfilled. That's us. I'm telling you, that's us. In a day you think not, the Lord will come. I gave you guys a nugget one time. Something, I've seen a pattern with the Lord. When the world expects something to happen, that's when nothing takes place. But when the world does not expect something to happen, that's when something does happen. When Christians become relaxed, when true Christians become relaxed and they decide they want to go back to sleep, well, that's why those 5 foolish virgins were caught off guard, weren't they? Notice they were all sleeping. I'm trying to tell you something here. They were all sleeping. This is a pattern in the entire Bible. They were all sleeping. The Lord does not do things when the world expects it. He does things when the world does not expect it. I've noticed that. He does the unbelievable, so they can't quite comprehend what just happened. And I'm telling you now, those people who came out of great tribulation, and he just told you how they're going to be working, one's going to be taking the other left. They're going to be sleeping, one will be taking the other left. The gathering, the angels will be sent to gather the elect from the 4 quarters of the earth. Angels will gather you. Did you guys catch that part? Angels will gather you together. Did you catch that? Can you even explain that one? Angels are going to gather you together. So guess what? It doesn't matter where you are. They're going to gather you from the 4 quarters of the earth. You don't know how, but they're going to do it. But we have to watch, remain vigilant, and stay awake. Now I just read to you that we cannot sleep. We can't sleep. We have to stay awake and remain sober. We cannot sleep. That means stop telling God you need a break. He designed you to overcome everything you've been put in. You got to reach a little harder. You got to put a little. I'm saying, I'm not going to listen, I'm not one of those ones. When a person says I'm tired, that'll say, okay, let me fluff your pillow up for you. I don't do that. You know what I'll say? Well, you need to find your inner strength and let's move. This is for real. Your salvation is for real. You keeping your armor on is a fight every single day. You guys are very special people to even endure what I'm saying. But the body of Christ is very important. What God has to deliver to us will be given through the body of Christ. I'm telling you now, if you go out on your own, you're going to get trapped in another body. A body that does not get revelation, of which the gates of hell will not prevail against. The gates of hell cannot prevail against revelation straight from God. He's with you. He's with you. But now, so we're dealing with this great tribulation. Now, after that, 144,000 are sealed. These people are hiding in the mountains and caves. Do you guys know how real that is? A lot of people say they hear underground bases, right? They don't think it's real. They really don't think it's real. You've heard about them, but you don't think it's real. But you know what? They figured out Revelation just as we have. All the good stuff and the proof, they have the good stuff and the proof. They have it. They got the good stuff and the proof. They've got these crystal type things where words move within them. Explain that. They've got that stuff. This is ancient technology. These are libraries held in crystal, perfectly cylindrical crystal with gold words that form inside the crystal. Now, you know that's some sort of technology we certainly don't understand. They know that the original underground bases that they actually found, that the material was both solid and biological at the same time. There's stuff on this planet you wouldn't possibly believe. They know that inside the earth are 1,000 layers. You live on the crust of the earth. If you looked at a piece of pizza, right? The crust of the earth on the outer rim of that pizza, if a standard size pizza was the earth, right? The crust of the earth, the part that you live on, would be probably a pencil lead thick. The thickness of a pencil lead would be the crust you live on. Which means 200 miles deep is nothing. We don't even get to the good stuff. And by the way, it's not solid inside the earth. It's more like a cauldron, a prison. There are levels inside this earth. I'm going to draw a picture of it one day and make sure it's in it's proportioned correctly so you guys can see it, because you wouldn't believe it. After you see it, you'd understand we know nothing about this planet. Yes, changed. Worlds within worlds. But see, what's happened is science has taught you there's nothing inside the earth. Yet, we spent $2 trillion last year going beneath this earth. Then they lost $6 trillion. It went to the black budget. Where'd that go? Inside the earth. Now, hear me out. They're in the oceans, drilling inside the earth from the ocean so you can't see it. And that's $8 trillion job? 1 year. That was 1 year. You know why we have such a large deficit? It's been going to the black budget, to the off-worlders, those who dwell outside the atmosphere. You think we just got one little trashy space station? Listen, who buys this lie? Now, hear me out. We got a space station that looks like something off of, I don't know, it looks like something off of Sesame Street. Oscar, a bunch of trash cans put together. They're floating around, seeing if a spider can spin a web. Millions of dollars per launch. Are you telling me that they are sustaining that raggedy-looking space station so they can test out how a spider spins a web in space? Are you serious? That has to be a joke for somebody to actually believe that, right? Oh, and by the way, you know what? The instant pictures of the space station, they conveniently live edit those frames so you can't see anything. Then they do a spacewalk to attach more garbage to it. On occasion, something will happen with the camera where it shows what's above the space station. Then they block that out so you can't. You know what? That would be like us still driving Model T Fords here on Earth. That is one raggedy space station. And I'm telling you now, that's not, we're not If you buy that story, shame on you. That's all I'll say. Shame on you for that. That raggedy piece of something. Shame on that. I believe that stirs a little bit of personal, that stirs personal things within me. See, because I know when you know what they're doing, but you can't communicate it directly, you're trying to throw hint after hint to people. It's of urgency. These are things of urgency. And you can't just bust out and say it. I can't say certain things. I don't want you to buy the lie anymore. I don't want you to buy the lie. I really don't want you to believe that Oscar's trash cans in space is the highlight of what they're doing. This is to deceive you to think that's all they can do. I'm telling you, that's what it's for. When you look at that space station, you'll say that's all they can do. And you'll never, ever realize the naval forces that are in space. You'll never realize that. You'll never, ever realize that the technology that's actually out there is about 500 years beyond what you can possibly imagine. You won't realize that. They've restored just about all the ancient technology, all of it. And they're covering their tracks very well because the public is buying the lie. They're buying the lie. And you know what? I'm not the only one fed up with it. There's some more. There's some off-worlders who are coming back, and they're going to try to tell people some quick things. And I tell you, watch for those stories. When you hear some real wild stories about people who have for the last 8 years been in space, you pay attention to them. No matter how kooky they sound, you pay attention to them. It's going to be more than one, but they won't last long. Because when that same stuff, they're gonna tell you some things that are unbelievable, only because of your current education in the beast system. But when that happens, just maintain yourself and understand that yes, they lie to you, but you must move forward. Our government's angry. China and Russia have threatened to tell the truth anyway. And the U.S. government's going to do anything to stop them. I'm warning you right now. The U.S. government's going to do anything to stop them. They've already said they're going to let the beans spill out the box. They want to tell you about some underground chambers and some satellites that we did not build that have been up there for about 22,000 years. They want to share it. They want to let you know that this world was engineered. It did not evolve. It was engineered. They want you to know there's structures inside this planet they can't explain. That it adjusts itself based off commands. They don't want you to know that. This world is engineered. God did it. They don't want you to know or have a hint of who God is, but I'll tell you this. God made us in His own image after His likeness. Even though we have the flesh, we cannot help but to try and create something, can we? We can't help it. To create something or to make something is in us all. It's in us all. We have to do it. We have to make something. I did, Dawn. I spoke to her. Also got your email about your dream. I don't want you guys to be, way off the rocker, because when you don't know these things and you read the Bible, you limit what it actually means. You'll say, no, that can't work. Oh, this can't work. That'll never be that way. And then when it happens, you're caught off guard. Again, I'll use this example. Can you imagine if we lived before the time of Moses, but the time of Moses was prophesied like the book of Revelation, and we're sitting in Egypt reading the doctrine where somebody will come and split the Red Sea, and that God will follow them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, and that He will give a law to us. And we're sitting there reading this, trying to interpret it. But all we know is Egypt. Right? That's all we know is Egypt. So what we do is we format the life of Moses, if we lived back in there, we format the book of Moses or the life of Moses and the prophecies to fit what we understand at the moment. Well, all we understand is bricks, crushing brick. So we'll come up with something crazy. Underestimating the power of God. And then when it happens, we all have heart attacks and die. That would just be something. If you guys saw the oceans open up on two sides and a pillar of fire came out of it and you're right there, that would scare some people who have weak hearts. It really would. I guess I'm a little bolder in my conversation because I know that demonstration is right around the corner. I don't need to show you anything. You're going to see it yourself. It's getting out of control. Everybody who thought the U.S. government was, all these governments were working with these fallen angels, and they were the slaves of fallen angels. They weren't working for them. They were slaves. They're kept under wraps through great fear. See, they don't have the Holy Spirit. Now imagine if you did not have the Holy Spirit, you had no power to rebuke anything. Can you imagine what could creep into your life? Some of you have had dreams you had to rebuke just to wake up. But imagine if you didn't have that power and that dream kept going. Just imagine that. You have power through Jesus Christ over those spirits. You have power to tread upon scorpions and serpents. All spirits are subject unto you through that name, and you have all power over the enemy. But imagine if you did not have it. What would your life be like? How many dreams could you be stuck in? How many dreams would turn into a daily reality that would cause you massive fear, that you would have no choice but to be a slave to those things? If you didn't have that power, you would be a target. A different target. There was a guy, I'm going to tell you this, there was a guy sat at a table. And 2 minutes he started to shake for 2 minutes. And after that 2 minutes his hair was gray. After the 2 minutes he was terrified. And after some weeks, he told everybody what happened. Now, you cannot believe this story, or you can believe it. Could be out there. Just say let's just call it a fictional story. After a couple of weeks, he decided to talk. He spent 2 years in torture. He spent 2 years in torture, being exposed to everything, given instruction and everything. And when he came back, now just for him, it was 2 minutes. Just for us, it was 2 minutes. Just imagine that. His hair sat there and turned gray in 2 minutes. But to him, it was 2 years being tortured. Trained and tortured to do something. Now, imagine that one. This same guy refused to believe about anything about Jesus, and in fact hated Jesus. And you know what? After that fact, he was so scared to even look in the way of Jesus. He was terrified. That guy was lost because through fear, he was ruled. He was scared to even think in his heart of salvation or anything like that. He was that terrified of their consequences. Thank God for Jesus Christ. Can you imagine that? Let's just call that a fictional story. But see, you who have been saved have power over all that stuff. Nothing can do that to you. Unless you play with your salvation. Unless you're not real about your salvation. Most of the leaders are scared to talk about Christianity. I'm telling you the truth. No wonder it said pray for your leaders. They're terrified to not obey these dark forces. These dark forces do not govern things like God does. They govern through fear. A fear with physical effects. That's Satan. Have you noticed it said people will narrowly look upon Satan and look at him and say, is this who made the nations tremble? He made the nations tremble through fear. If he cannot beguile you and you don't belong to the Lord, he'll just rule you in fear. He does that with horrible dreams. Presence. You go to sleep and you're froze. You can't move, and you feel darkness around you. You can't move. You have to fight to get your breath and sit up and everything else. That's just one of his little minions. That means you got a door open somewhere in your life you need to shut. That's all that is. That's pretty fearful, isn't it? When you feel that, those of you who have felt that, they call it sleep paralysis. That's what the name they've given it because it's become so common. They call it sleep paralysis. And when you can't move and you can't do anything and it feels like something is about to take you somewhere and you're scared to death fighting to wake up out of your sleep or something, sleep paralysis. Well, that's the kind of tactic Satan will use because it does cause great fear. It causes fear. That's a horrible feeling. Now, while I was awake, I went partially through that. Partially. But I'm telling you, God's power is real. What Jesus did for us is real. Revelation is real. It's not a joke. It's not a game. And I'm telling you now we're at the end of something. And everybody's about to experience some things. You know what happens when an accident takes place? People start running around, don't they? They had a plan in their mind, but when it happened, they start running around, didn't they? In chaos. Multiply that times 2 billion, and you have the world in the future running around in chaos. Even some of us will run around in chaos because you can hear me, but you don't hear me. You've heard so many failed prophecies of men that you just throw it all out, not knowing that your entire life you've been living prophecies that are methodical in nature, meaning they don't happen all at one time. They're slow in their formation, but they still take effect. In fact, they're so slow that you can't see half of them because you won't reflect on the past. Something is about to take place. Some of you are going to be caught off guard. But the most important thing for you to do is believe the Word of God. Forget everything I said. Believe the Word of God. Count me as nothing. Let me be a liar. Believe the Word of God. Don't say Michael said it. Go and find it in the Bible and say Jesus said it or God said it. Please do that. Go and verify when we have these conversations. Tell the Lord to ask you to find something even close to it. Ask Him to prepare you and give you understanding and wisdom. Don't take it as a joke. Don, I'm going to tell you something. I was going to tell everybody on Pastor Paul's show to make sure that their homes are covered from meteorite damage. I really was, because I know it's coming. I also know that Texas is going to be on fire pretty soon. They're already running out of water. But they broke the story too soon. I put that in Pastor Paul's chat room earlier today. They're running out of water. Folks, we're going to take a short break. I'm going to get some coffee, and then we're going to jump back into the book of Revelation because I jumped way off course. You guys must have wanted to know something. I jumped way off course. And really, I thank you for your patience because I'm attempting to formulate something to get you to see something. It's very important. Because, see, I don't want your hopes built up that you're not going to ever have to feel a scratch when that's not the truth. Okay? I don't want you to do that. That would be like if I knew for a fact 23 tornadoes were coming in your neighborhood and I told you, no, they're not going to hit you, and they tore your house up. You weren't hurt or anything. None of your household was hurt, but it tore up your house. You would be devastated big time because you thought they wouldn't hit. It would ruin your world. But if you had an idea that they would hit, that would empower you to get through it. You'd say, okay, I knew this. That means God's word is real. And that means his promises are real. And then your hope is restored. And then you can start to assist other people. But if you don't know it, and it takes you by surprise, your whole world is crushed. Because some foolish individual held it back from you. And so you couldn't know. And Jesus said, the Lord said, I will not have you ignorant concerning the devices of the enemy. He also said, I will do nothing less I declare through my prophets first. Don't look at me as a prophet. I'm not a prophet. A prophet is one that tells the word of God to folks. Okay? I'm that man in the woods that will run out and tell you something and disappear. That's me. Think of me that way. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. That was abrupt. Thank you guys for hanging in there. You know, I'll find out how to convey information to you guys without, messing up everything. But we'll find that way. Now, tonight, there's a great number of people who came out of Great Tribulation. If they came out of Great Tribulation, that means they were in Great Tribulation, but they came out. We know that also in the times of Great Tribulation, or before the sixth seal, before the heavens roll together like a scroll, according to Isaiah 34, that the armies of the earth are destroyed. That's part of that Great Tribulation. That's why those in Judea had to flee to the mountains. Right? The armies will be in that vicinity. And if they're destroyed, everything is going to be blown up, isn't it? Isn't it? Let's put this picture together according to the Word of God. If they have to flee to Judea, and we know that when the abomination of desolation is set up where it ought not, those in Judea flee, because right after he does that, the attack starts. It starts. So that's why they had to flee. It starts. Armies invade, and it starts. But we know the armies of the earth are utterly destroyed by God before the sky rolls together as a scroll. Okay? We know that. We should know that. That's part of the Great Tribulation that the world has not seen yet. We're going to see another war, folks. We're going to see it. It's forming now. The pieces are forming now. Russia's going to do training with China. Naval exercises, air exercises. Let me tell you something about exercises. There's no better way than to position your men than to do exercises. Do you know what happened in Crimea? Putin said he was going over there to do exercises. And then he took Crimea. Now he's going to China to do exercises with China. You know what China's army is trained to do? Take over America. Their primary objective. China has been training their soldiers for the last 11, 12 years to take over America. Do you guys understand that? To take over America. This is what they've been doing. Now, they have the manpower, they have the know-how, the technical know-how to do things. They can invade our systems. They know a lot about us. They have their, you know what, we're aware of this. They know everything about us. The only thing they don't know about is what I will call an aerial fleet, because it's not ground-based. Everybody's underestimating Iran. Iran is positioned in a perfect place to be a centralized hub or a command post for China, Russia. Do you guys understand that? A command post for China and Russia. It's going to be a naval battle. Mabus is going to be a name you guys are all going to be familiar with. Secretary of the Navy. It's going to be a name you guys are going to be familiar with. Mabus. You're going to be familiar with that name. Because when it starts, it's going to be fast and furious. And a lot of you people are going to be in fear because you don't understand the defense capabilities and offensive capabilities of these nations. And don't worry, I'm going to tell you this. Whatever happens to Israel is going to happen to us too. Don't think they're just going to attack Israel. because they vowed to destroy. Listen, they have vowed to destroy the United States. How arrogant are we to turn our back to those statements? Mavis, Secretary of the Navy, Mavis. Did you guys know the Secretary of the Navy's name, his name is Mavis? Did you guys know that? That's the Secretary of the Navy. It's a shame that most of the public has no clue what they're near to. But I'm going to tell you what, you guys having this knowledge, we going over Revelation, learning this stuff, you guys are going to have to stand up in a time. You're going to have to stand up and teach these folks and say, hey, it's going to be okay. You're going to have to comfort some people, because when it happens, when things begin to take place, people are going to get uncomfortable. You need to think now how you're going to restore hope in them. But see, you have to be true to your salvation and the Spirit of God to do that. You have to walk in the Spirit. Do that. Walk in the Spirit. Pray without ceasing. Be mindful of the Father's business every day, not the business of the flesh. So you can be useful in that day. That's a day of darkness and gloominess anyway. But it's coming. They're positioning themselves. You notice when Flight 370 went down, that's when all the maneuvering started. All of it. And then, of course, that dream I shared with you guys in March about Russia. And right after that, they took Crimea. They got missiles launching from Russia up in the air. And I'm telling you, in that dream, they wanted their missile launchers in the Ukraine. They need the launchers in the Ukraine. They're not going to give up until they get them there. There were Middle Eastern people in that dream. I told you guys about that. African nations were also in that dream. They were staging for an assault. Massive amounts of naval personnel. Now, it's one thing you don't hear about a lot is the Russia's navy and their maneuvers of where they actually are. They have a huge navy. They also have technology that matches ours underneath the waters. Sometimes we cannot detect what they have. Sometimes they give off signatures that are just like our boats. They are technological geniuses. We have to remember that the space race began with them. They were the first ones to successfully do things in space, because they too stole some scientists from Germany, and they were already smart concerning rockets and advanced technology. The U.S. was one sitting behind until Kennedy ordered that we go to the moon. You guys got to remember that. They're very advanced. We can't be so arrogant to say, yes, we're going to win at anything, anybody. You know what? That's when a nation loses, when they become arrogant. Because you know what? If you're arrogant, you're no longer vigilant, are you? That's what will take you down. That's called sleeping, by the way. When you think you have it all under control. That's not being sober. Airspace in the U.S. has been penetrated 13 times in the last month. That's why some people see low-flying C-130s flying at about 500 or 600 feet. Some people are reporting C-5 Galaxies flying under radar so that they're not picked up by public radar, so they can still function. Now, I don't know if you know how big a C-5 Galaxy is, but that is a huge aircraft. Lots of noise. You're not supposed to fly any jet engine that low, anything with jet propulsion that low. Not with that thrust. If he happens to pull up on the stick and that exhaust can reach your house at 500 feet, I can reach your house and burn the top off of it. Blow your windows out. But in the Appalachian Mountains, that's exactly what they're doing. They're flying very low in a hurry. You don't take that risk to fly. Listen to me. You do not risk an aircraft like that or its cargo to see if you can fly low. I'm telling you, that's against. These are combat maneuvers that you simulate. You don't do for real unless necessary. What are they dodging? What are they dodging? Is there something going on you people don't know about? Or middle? I spend 2 days looking through all the raffles. Of course I'm going to select the person. And then I take one and replicate that one in all the little bowl so it's the same name and pick it out and say, oops, you won. Moxie writes, why bother with wars? Hold on. Why bother with wars? Oh, I can't see, Moxie. They froze me out. I missed it, Moxie. Listen, they're going to have wars because it was written. They're compelled to do so. They're going to have every prophetic thing that was written in this Bible is going to take place. Everything. God will make sure all his, listen, he said, all his prophecies are going to happen. So guess what? If God said it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But Moxie, they're convinced of the lie that Satan told them. Some operate out of fear. Some have been promised eternal life. It's the same thing. They want to save their lives. They want to live forever. But here's the thing you guys don't know. There are certain people in the government, and I've seen them on a few occasions. They're very tall, very stout. All of them have the same color green eyes. What kind of stuff is that? They have faces that look like they have not smiled in 22 years, yet their skin looks very young. But they are obviously older than you think, but they're very tall and stout. They all look the same. They're very tall. I'd say about 7 foot high. They're about 7 foot tall. These are soldiers and leaders that look exactly alike. Same green type eyes. Hair, same color, same texture. What in the world is that? That's a little nugget for you. But they're out there calling the shots. Just to let you know. They call the shots. They pop up on special operations missions. They get too close to certain things. They tell people weird things to do. They have an interest in all archaeological finds of anybody who's going into place. They normally call in Special Operations Command when they take certain archaeological sites over to quarantine the area and get the people out, then go investigate and bring scientists in. The best scientists on earth are brought into these places that they quarantine. You know what? I'm telling you now, when they do that, they're digging up ancient technology. They're digging up ancient technology. They want to know how this stuff works. You think the Tower of Babel was really a bunch of bricks stacked up? If I was king of this world and I saw a bunch of people stacking up bricks, after I quit laughing, right? After I stopped laughing, knowing they're going to run out of oxygen up there, it's going to get pretty cold, so they're going to freeze. Nobody's going to be able to make it. I just say you might not want to do that. However, if they were building a portal to travel through dimensions, that'd be a different story. And there are rumors that the movie Stargate was mirrored from actual events, the initial part of it. Even the gate was similar to what the gate looked like in that movie. And you know, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've heard some colleagues talk about it, that they put the gate right in front of people's faces. I've heard people say that. They put the real gate right in front of people's faces. Yeah, I saw that. You know what? Tribe, don't pay attention to them, please. Don't do it. Let me tell you guys something. When you see weird stuff, right? The more attention you get, because listen, this is important. These things feed from your fears and curiosities. Okay? That's what they feed from. That's what they feed from. Once you exercise fear, you begin to let off your energy changes. They feed off this energy. That's what they feed on. They need your faith to believe in them so they can continue to make you have fear so they can feed and stay here. Ultimately, they will enter you. And they'll turn you against Jesus Christ. I'm telling you the truth. Don't fall for that. Don't pay them. If you see, listen, if I saw a UFO land in front of my face, I'm telling you now what I'd say. Get out of the way in Jesus' name. I have work to do. I'm not going to pay them any mind. My brothers and sisters are out there wounded. And we get that. They're not going to fascinate me. That's going to get in my way. Don't be fascinated with it. First of all, you got to know, yes, those things exist. That's how some of the fallen angels travel around. That's how just like we have cars. Is that so hard to believe? They have higher forms of technology. But certainly don't be taken in by those things. Tell them to get out your yard, get out your face. Rebuke them in the name of Jesus. You have authority over them. Certainly don't entertain them, because that's what you do when you look in fascination. Look at that. Can you imagine that? You're entertaining them. When you entertain and you spark that curiosity, they try to ease their way into your life. I'm telling you now, don't pay attention to them. Rebuke them in the name of Jesus. That's what you do to them. Don't even toy with them. Don't be like the ghost hunters and all these other things that they got going on. Rebuke them in the name of Jesus. You remember Pastor Paul read that story about the naked guy that jumped on top of a car, right? Now, you guys know that doctors have given a name to every demonic person that's been possessed. There are multiple different types of demons. Every time a demon gets in a person, the person undergoes physical changes. Physical changes. Physical changes. People are being marked for possession. They're being marked for possession. That is also something the elite cannot avoid because they have no power over that. They're being marked for possession. Yet they have an agreement with them. These things have to exercise their true vileness. And they're falling from everywhere. See, I don't trust meteors that come into the atmosphere. Neither do other commands around this world. They don't trust them. Because some things travel in the form of rocks, and then they just vanish. No sign, no trace of an impact. Everything is just vanished. And then in the areas in which these things do fall, sometimes when they're green, violence erupts, horrible crimes. Normally kids start dying and everything else. Don't play with them. Rebuke them in the name of Jesus and go forward with your walk in Christ. Because we're at the very end. And they're going to try everything to get you off guard. Yes, they are changed. In fact, they have special teams that do nothing but study the Bible and match them with archaeological finds. So they know it's true. They do. And yes, the Holy Spirit is in their way. They'll admit that. People with the Holy Spirit emit a certain type of energy, and their body changes. Their energy signature changes. Even their body frequency changes. They're not subject to the different frequencies they try to give to people. Like those frequencies in the 7.3 to 7.8 range to make you irritable, mad, and angry. It doesn't work. Anyway, I'm rambling now. But make sure your salvation is real. And ignore those things. Rebuke them in the name of Jesus. Don't get fascinated with UFOs and stuff, please. Don't do it. Don't get fascinated. That's a waste of time. You know what? You have more power than they do. So why are you going to get fascinated? That'd be like a chipmunk with rabies. Are you going to get fascinated with a chipmunk with rabies? Perfect love casts out all fear. And I told you yesterday, if an infant child was laying in the highway crying and a car was coming, you would no longer care about the car, but you would run in the middle of the highway like a Looney Tune and go get that baby. Certainly, if it was yours, you would go get that baby. You would cast all caution to the wind and go get that baby. That's the type of love I'm talking about. When I see my brothers and sisters out there hurting, it's the same thing for me. because we're all children. I'm a child. You're a child. If you're stuck somewhere, well, I'm crazy enough to go get you. I don't listen to limitations. I do not. I refuse. If the Lord said I can do something according to His Word, I can do it. Period. I don't listen to the world's limitations. All throughout our lives in school, educational facilities, and so forth, we have been taught limitations, and we believe them. And that's why it's hard for us to believe the Word of God, because the world did not confirm it. That's why it's hard to believe. We've been programmed not to use faith and not to believe the Word of God. And it's hard for us to really believe because the world will not confirm it. It's as simple as that. We have been taught to live in a world that if the world does not confirm it, it is certainly not true. There's no comfort in having that knowledge. Well, I'm just the opposite. I believe in God's Word, which are words and ways of the kingdom of God. I'm in this world, not of this world. And it says, come out of her, my people. This world is what? Babylon. It's a Babylonian system all over the place. Babylon is everywhere. Babylon broadened her gates. All nations practice things of a Babylonian nature. Its structure mirrors Babylon, its policies. All of it. Folks, it's been real. I have babbled too much. I'm going to Babylon out of here. I'm going to get out of Babylon right now. Folks, I love you. I'll be back tomorrow, and we will discuss some of the angels in detail, mixed with some events. Now, these events have actual timing because they were discovered. They're published, but you have to know where to look for them. Therefore, I can tell you the dates of some of this stuff. I can tell you the dates. But the events look almost like some of the trumpets. So it'll be interesting. Folks, I love you. I will see you tomorrow if you can make it. Thank you for tolerating me tonight. God bless you and God be with you. Oh, and get ready for Larry's News.